Welcome to the Battle Buddy Podcast with Keith McKeever.
Hey, welcome back to another episode. Today, I've got a great story that I came across on Facebook, I believe it was. Got a fellow airman, a fellow security forces defender. Can't wait to talk to this guy about religious accommodations and what it means to him and what that process was like. I know there's a lot of people that are probably looking at that for whatever your religion is, whatever your faith is, whatever kind of accommodation. So if that is you, or you know somebody who might be find this valuable, then share this with them so that they can get a little bit of insight as to what it took Connor to get his religious accommodation and get through that process. As you know, I'm sure there's a lot of red tape involved. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Connor.
Hey, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on here. I was just blown away when I saw the article. I think it was the Air Force Times article. Somebody shared in some Facebook group somewhere. I don't know.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I was like, man, I got to reach out. like this is a good story because I know everybody has a different religion. You know, whether that's indigenous or Christian or Muslim or Jewish or whatever. I mean, there's a ton of different ways, subsects of each one of those, and all kinds of different religious accommodations. So I've seen a lot more movement since I got out, 11 years ago, and people getting those.
Yeah, for sure.
I saw an article not too long ago, maybe a year or two ago, about the first Sikh person that was allowed to wear their headgear, whatever that's called. I'm like, man, that's awesome.
For sure. It's great.
Back in the day, you didn't see hardly anything like that. So it's awesome for people to be able to serve and have those things that are, really powerful to them. So
Absolutely.
Without further ado, share us a little bit of a backstory of who you were, where you're from, what made you join the Air Force, those kind of things.
Okay, yeah. So I was born in northern New York, about a mile away from Ontario, and grew up in a little small community right along the Canadian border of Ontario, Quebec provinces, in New York State. Initially I didn't think about joining the Air Force. I was going to go to college, that type of thing. But then COVID hit my senior year. Perfect. Wiped out my senior year. And from there, I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to be a police officer. I mean, that's what I was going to go to college for. And I figured that I can get an early start with that, and in the Air Force, I can get hands-on involvement, and I could, leave that little small community and start anew, So, I joined the Air Force when I was 18 and went from there.
And you ended up in the middle of nowhere in Montana.
I ended up in nowhere in Montana. Yep.
You never know where the military is going to send you, right?
That's
you
true.
Travel to see the world, and then you can just see the Great Plains. So,
absolutely.
I'm a lot like you, man. I got an associate's degree, but I was kind of like in that bored state. I wanted to become a cop, but I felt like I was like, if I join the military, like I can get some practical experience and I can get paid to do it, and and you can do a lot of other stuff and meet a lot of people and travel the world at the same time. Or I could just go become a cop in my local town and never leave.
Exactly.
So there's good and bad. So
for sure.
But so you've got a religious accommodation, and that's what the article is about. I'll have it in the show notes. But give us a little bit of backstory about what the religious accommodation is and why it was important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, this religious accommodation grants me to wear unshorn hair in uniform in accordance with female hair standards. So, as a Native American, as an Ongwe person, half Native American, my father's Mohawk. And growing up Mohawk, you learn that your hair is essentially your strength, So the longer my hair is, the closer it is to the ground, the more connected I am to the earth. As well as that connection with the earth grants me spiritual strength and resilience, So the longer my hair is, the more connected I am to the earth, to the creator. And then I'm protected. Certain hairstyles, braids, stuff like that, that just strengthens that. So as soon as I really was old enough to understand who I am, probably about 13, and my background, I was like, I'm growing my hair. My dad had long hair right before I was born, so I used to see that, pictures and whatnot, and we decided we're going to grow our hair together. So about 13, I started growing my hair. I went through that. So grew my hair 5 years, really, really immersing myself in my culture and my religion. And when time came to join the Air Force, and go to basic, I was trying to have a religious accommodation through my recruiter. And that process was just delaying my ship out date. You know, I kept getting pushed back because I couldn't get an answer.
A lot of red
And
tape in that, huh?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
bet.
I didn't think it was going to, I mean, I knew it was going to be a process, but I didn't think it was going to be that much of a process, you know.
Of course,
I've
yeah.
learned the military's game with paperwork and time. So, you know, that didn't really work out initially. So I was in a stage where, like, you know, I needed to get out, you know. So I said I would, you know, cut my hair and go for an earlier date to leave. So I got that date. I left January 2021 for basic. And shit, from there, you know, I missed my hair every day. When I cut my hair, you know, I felt like a part of me died. You know, it really means that much to us in indigenous communities. So I cut my dad's braid, he cut my braid, and, you know, he's been the biggest support I've ever had. And you know, I didn't wait. As soon as I got to my duty station, I wasn't even on flight, nothing like that. I got to my duty station, I went right to my chaplain, and I was like, I'm going to start this over again because I knew it was going to be a while. So I went and I spoke to my chaplain, and you know, we went from there.
Awesome. So I was kind of curious about a couple of different figures in this process for you and how supportive they were, how impactful they were. But I want to start with your dad. How was he throughout that process of trying to cut through the red tape in the beginning? You've only seen the beginning. You've just barely gotten into the Air Force. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
there's
Oh
there's
yeah.
a lot of red tape and a lot of hurdles in front of you. But I mean, how instrumental was he? And did he say anything to you about this process about like, hey, keep your head up? This
Yeah.
sucks or
Yeah.
whatnot, but you know, you'll get it eventually kind of thing.
Yeah. He was the biggest support, you know, from the beginning, you know, growing up, learning to be a Native person, you know, growing up, and then just having that connection that we had. We had a really good connection with bond. And he was just there supportive the whole time. You know, he was never down about it. He was like, oh, you know, it sucks that it's taking so long, but, you know, just, you know, keep waiting. It'll be all right. You know, we'll get through it. And anytime I was doubtful about it or getting upset about the process, how long it was taking, you know, I go talk to my dad about it. You know, we're good. You know, like we're good. And he would just be that backbone. You know, he would great support, great support.
Yeah, I kind of figured so. Now, how about your recruiter? And I guess more specifically on your recruiter, did they say anything, or you know,
No, he
did they
was
know anything about the religious accommodations? I mean, I would imagine that's something that they see every now and then, but not as many, you know, as other waivers and other processes that they have to go through in their job.
absolutely. Him and my chaplain said the same thing. You know, they've had never worked with a situation quite like this. So very supportive. My recruiter was great. He's very patient with me. You know, he took the time to understand why I was requesting the accommodation request. And you know, he kept me updated as much as he could. You know, he filled me in about everything. He was great. He was a great help.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Same thing with the chaplain then.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, he was a phenomenal ally. You know, he's never seen anything quite like it. So he went to the nitty and the gritty of the rules with requesting a religious accommodation, and we got we got help from another chaplain. So I had two chaplains helping me out at once as we're writing up this memorandum, and very supportive. You know, like it was incredible.
That doesn't surprise me. That sounds like chaplains. Just
It
about any
does.
interaction I ever had with them. And, you know, maybe it's just kind of who they are as people. But
Right.
you know, what do you need? What do you need help with? You know, we'll get it
Absolutely.
done. Comfort. I had, you know, on my deployments, I had the chaplains come out and bring us hot chocolate from time to time. I always
They're
felt like
great.
there was an agenda there, but
Yeah. Yeah.
we always took the hot chocolate and smoked with a smile. So, you know,
Absolutely.
it is what it is. Hopefully they're bringing hot chocolate to you out there when it's free on the frozen tundra, but we need to make some phone calls, make that happen. So the application process then, like what was that like? You know, was it just like a simple form or like a ton of paperwork and process?
Ton of paperwork and process. So the chaplain was reading on the details, and he said, "Oh yeah, they have to respond within 60 days with an approval or a denial." Okay, that sounds too good to be true. You know, I was like, "Okay, cool, I'm with it."
Skeptical at least, right? Like,
Yeah,
okay, 60 days, really?
yeah,
Like,
that'd
okay.
be great, but we'll see. You know, we'll see. And so initially, I had to go to an interview for sincerity with him. So he basically asked me who I am, where I'm from, what my religion is. You know, what's the meaning of hair to my people, my culture, my religion, everything like that. And through that sincerity request, he typed up a memorandum. And from there, it went up. So it went up to initially my squadron commander. He called me in one day to talk to me about the same thing, to ask me everything. And from him, it went up from there. So I knew it was going to be a process, but it got kicked back a few times to the chaplain for little grammatical issues. And then at that time, they switched from AFI to DAFI because Space Force became a department of the Air Force. So we had to change that. It was a process.
That doesn't surprise me, actually. I wouldn't have thought about that. I mean, now that process would be kind of ironed out for people, but
right.
I'm sure there's still a lot of things with the Space Force integration that causes a lot of problems. But
yeah, little things that you think wouldn't cause an issue, but it caused an issue with the whole paper. So
when you said grammar and stuff like that, I'm like, oh my, that is like that's like the most military thing possible.
Oh,
yeah, sorry, we can't accept this. There's a period in the wrong spot. You didn't capitalize this plural noun here. No, we can't do that.
Absolutely, that's how it is.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So how long did the whole process take then for you?
It took a year and a half after I reapplied. So for my squadron commander, had to go up to the wing. I got approval from the wing. And then I went up to my MATCOM, Air Force Global Strike Command, and got approval there. And then I went up to the 20th Air Force Headquarters, got approval there. And then from there, I had to go to the Pentagon because it was, a unique situation and a unique request. So after about a year and a half, after reapplying, it was finally, notified of my approval.
That's a long time to wait.
Yes,
a lot of frustration.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
People started to tell me like, "Oh, it'll be the end of your contract before you hear anything." That's how they'll get you to re-enlist. Stuff like that. Little jokes and comments here and there. But
yeah, make that part of your bonus for re-enlistment, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it wouldn't have been the end of the world, as long as it gets approved, right? But yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It would take a year and a half. I mean, it's a lot of steps.
It is.
It seems like there would be more of a streamlined process. Gosh, that sounds weird to say, but being the military, but like there's other accommodations I think that would have more of an impact. Like facial hair.
Yeah.
Now, if you need to wear a gas mask, we all know about the ceiling and stuff like that and whatever. But something like that would seem to be like something that might take a little while. Like, okay, what is your job? What kind of impact? But you're talking long hair. You can still wear your beret. You can still wear your helmet. I mean, where's the problem? It's not like it's another piece of headgear or something like that would be affected. You'd have to take that off and whatever. But I guess each situation, each religion is going to have its own unique hurdles when it comes to that. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I requested female hair standards specifically because it's already been proven that they can complete their job without any issues. So if they can wear their hair a certain way under their conditions, why wouldn't I be able to perform my job the same? And that I didn't really leave room for argument. I didn't want to have no like pushback, nothing like that. So I made sure to include that in there.
That's actually a good point I didn't think about because as far as I know, I'm assuming the Space Force did too, but the Air Force and the Army have changed their standards for female hair where they can have their hair down in a ponytail, I think in any uniform, as far as I know. When did that come about? Do you know?
Yeah, actually, I think it was. I was actually in the middle of basic, so it was either January or February 2021. Because I remember seeing all like the female trainees with buns, and the next day, like, oh, standards change, and then they all wear ponytails. So I was specifically in basic when I remember that. So somewhat recent.
That's interesting. I bet that had a positive impact on getting it passed through.
Oh, absolutely.
It might have been one of those things that 5 years ago, decision makers might have been like, no, but they might have been like, well, we did just make these changes for female hair, like a year and a half ago. So,
yeah,
what's the difference? So,
exactly.
Yeah, could have worked in your favor for sure. So, where were you then when you received word?
I had just gotten back from the field before I switched squadrons, and I was just getting home, and I was getting a call from my LT. And I was like, oh, shit, okay. So I answered the phone. I'm like, hey, what's up, sir? He's like, "Hey, are you sitting down right now?" I'm like, no, sir. He goes, "You might want to take a seat." I'm like, "Oh shit." No, what's up, sir? I'm sitting down right now, and I heard my master sergeant with him as well. He goes, "Hey, we got master right here as well. Just wanted to let you know that your accommodation was approved. It's effective immediately. You can start growing your hair right now if you want." I'm like, "Oh my God, are you serious? Like, are you serious?" I was shocked. Like, yeah, yeah. It was
Yeah.
over the day, everything like that. Like it was incredible.
Yeah, it would be shocking. Did you at any point leading up to that, since it took a year and a half, did you kind of lose hope at all? Like, ever
I was
have a
starting
thought
to
that, like,
waver a
man,
little
this
bit.
this might not ever happen? Like,
It was starting to waver a little bit here and there. I was trying to like stay strong. Like it'll be all right. It'll be all right. The last time I had heard anything was April. My shirt gave me an update. He goes, "Hey, just got approved by 20th Air Force. It's up to the Pentagon now." And then I didn't hear any from April till October 22nd. So in that period of time, I was like, "Oh my God!" But
yeah, that's a long period to wait and sit there and be like, gosh, I mean, Pentagon's a big place. How many
yeah,
possible desks could that be sitting on in one file, just moving from this person to this person to this person? And man, yeah, I think most people would probably start having those thoughts in the back of their head, just a little bit of doubt anyway. Like,
I was starting to worry. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
So how, obviously it seems like your lieutenant, your master sergeant, your commander, everybody was on board. How about, the fellow airmen in your unit?
Yeah, they're supportive. So I found out the day that I was switching, units. So I ended up switching over to CRF that same like week. So I never really got to interact with my fellow flight mates that I had known for a year and a half. But going over to my new squadron and my new flight, they were told kind of immediately by leadership, don't say anything about it. It's already been approved. When his hair starts getting longer, and they're awesome about it. Like, "Oh, that's awesome, man. Like, how'd you do that? And they started asking me about it, which is good. It's good to have conversation about, indigenous religions and stuff like that, because it's not something that's often talked about. But it's been super supportive. I've had a lot of support.
I'm glad you said that people ask about your religion, because I
Yeah,
think you're definitely right. I mean, it's not like we walk around with a sign on our forehead that says "I am such and
exactly.
such," right? Like, you don't
Exactly.
know. I mean, you could be, any kind of religion. I mean, gosh, there's probably thousands of them out there. Different beliefs. So I think it's important for people to sit down and have those conversations and just be more open and acceptable of people, and you know and learn
Absolutely.
about it. I know I would
That's,
have been one of those people. I'd have been like, dude, like, tell me all about your religion, because I'm an extremely curious person.
yeah, yeah.
I'd be like, tell me everything about it, because I just want to know.
Absolutely.
So
Like I'll be out on a mission, and my partner next to me is like, "Hey man, tell me a little bit about this," and they just start asking me all these questions. Like they ask about my reservation, or they ask about historical points of my tribe, or religious background, stuff like that. Like it's good. It's a good communication topic.
yeah, absolutely. So what's speaking of that, then what is some of the history and backstory of your tribe? Then you said it was Mohawk, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mohawk. So we're part of the Haudenosaunee, which means people of the Longhouse, and in English we're known as the Iroquois Confederacy or the Iroquois. And we're initially a confederacy of 5 and then 6 tribes from the Northeast. So we're both Canadian and United States like natives. And yeah, like I said, we're from the Northeast. We're a huge confederacy of nations. We're still around today. We added to the democracy of the United States, stuff like that. We had a lot of influence on America's early history during the 16, 17, early 1800s. And all my tribe's reservations are in Canada. I was a part of it in the United States. So it's kind of interesting as well, coming from a Canadian tribe. But yeah, like Iroquois Confederacy.
I've definitely heard of them. I'm a history buff, so I've definitely heard of it. I've heard of the long huts and all that stuff too. So if you're, most of your reservations in Canada, have you been up to visit the reservation yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So my family and I lived about an hour and a half away from nearest Mohawk Reservation, where a lot of my family, relatives came from. It's called Akwesasne, and that's pretty equally split. So you got a portion in Quebec, you got a portion in Ontario, then you got a portion in the United States. And it's in 2 different counties in the United States too. So it's a whole like jurisdictional thing. But at one point you can be driving down the street and you're in Quebec. You know, there's not border patrol, there's not customs there. It's part of the reservation. So it's a unique dynamic. And then my tribe also has about another 4 reservations all throughout Canada, mostly Ontario and Quebec. But yeah, I make sure to go and visit them. You know, we got Ganawage right outside of Montreal, Quebec. Yeah, all spread out through those 2 provinces.
Like I said, I'm a very curious person. So,
no, absolutely.
Obviously, with being Canada, Quebec, I know French is a very commonly spoken language. I'm assuming most people in your tribe then speak English, a native language, and French, probably. Somewhat common, maybe.
Yeah, it's somewhat common. For a lot of people in my tribe don't like to speak French. We have a lot of issues with the people of Quebec because, you know, they're kind of racist against Mohawks. So it's funny. As soon as you go on the reservation in those Quebec provinces, there's no French spoken. They won't speak French. They only speak English and Mohawk. You know, like the stop signs are in Mohawk, for example, and stuff like that. Like they refuse to speak French. Living in Quebec, you should know some French.
Right, you know, functional use in town or wherever you might need it. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I know a lot of people speak French up there. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That must be kind of interesting then, you know, for a lot of people to grow up trying to learn 3 different languages.
It is, yeah.
Sometimes sure. Sometimes I don't even know if I can master English. So
no, absolutely.
If you ask my wife, she'll tell you I can't in written words. So, but that's, you know, hey, it is what it is. So it's awesome. So what advice do you have for anybody else? You know, no matter what their religion is, that's going through this process. Any bits of information, words of wisdom for them?
Sure. You know, native, non-native, whatever your religion is, if you're trying to go for a religious accommodation, you know, you just got to realize it's going to take time. You know, you got to have the patience there for the system. You know, like the Air Force is big. It's big, you know, so it's going to take time to get through those steps, you know, but just don't give up. You know, I don't mean to sound basic, but honestly, just hold out, you know, have your hope, you know, hold on. You know, your religion is, you know, important enough for you to request the accommodation. Just hold on to it, you know, like, and hopefully, you know, your accommodation gets approved. But just remember, it's going to take time.
That would be some good advice. It sounds to me like, you know, another one for people would be to find your group, to find your people.
For sure.
You know, you probably just got lucky by just finding the right 2 chaplains at the right time that were like, let's go for it. You know, let's help this guy out. Because
absolutely,
somebody could very easily at another base, another set of leadership, add more hurdles to their accommodation request. So
absolutely. I've spoken to like a lot of other, you know, native men asking me how I did it, you know, because they've been trying. And, you know, I tell them, oh, you know, do this, do this. Like, yeah, I've tried talking to the chaplain, but, you know, like they're not, you know, helping me out, or they don't know exactly how to push forward to it. So it kind of just becomes stagnant, or their leadership isn't like pushing and advocating for them. You know, it really makes me think that, wow, you know, I got lucky. I had great leadership. You know, I had great chaplains that, you know, were there and willing to help me out as much as they did. So there are those hurdles, absolutely, depending on where your base is or who your leadership is, that, you know, you might have to overcome. I definitely got lucky with mine.
Yeah, well, it's awesome. Other people are reaching out to you about that.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure quite a few did after that news article came out.
Yes, they did. They tracked me down on Facebook, started sending me messages. Hey man, you know, how'd you do this? I'm part of this tribe. You know, like, can you help me out? So yeah, I've been trying to help out as many people as I can. You know, I'm encouraging them to reach out to me so I can, you know, help them. You know, it's a process, you know, and the more that gets approved, you know, the better. You know, maybe it can change DoD wide for Native men, you know, because Canadian Armed Forces, for example, Native men can wear their hair in a braid, you know, and stuff like that. So maybe that can, you know, become a DoD thing here, and that'd be phenomenal.
That would be. I mean, let people come in and be able to do their thing.
Absolutely.
And not have to. I can't imagine. I mean, I have no hair. That's why I wear the hat. Lost that when I was about 25. So, yeah. You know, to go through that process, like, you know, for me, I always kept my hair short. So I remember going through basic training. You know, you line right up, boom, there goes the hair. I didn't care. I don't know that they really even cut much off my head. You know, I mean, I didn't come in with like a buzz, but I had always had short hair. So, you know, no big deal to me. Now I don't have any hair. So but I can't imagine being so tied to something that religion, identity, blood culture, all that stuff like this, so tightly woven into who you are as a person. I cannot imagine the pain of having to cut that off.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that, and it was really awful. We started out, I cut my dad's braid first, and oh my God, that just broke me. I cried and I cried, even though it wasn't my hair. It's something that my father and I did together, and it's something that's so important to indigenous identity and culture and religion that just I felt awful just cutting his braid. And then when the time came for him to cut my braid, not that long after, it was like I said, I really felt like I severed a integral part of who I am. I really feel like a part of me died. I really feel like I've not been completely whole. I don't want to sound like dramatic or nothing, but it really does, mean that much to us. So now that I'm out of regs now, like that's great and that's awesome. I'm getting back there. I'm starting to feel more whole as the time goes on. I'm getting my hair back.
Awesome. And, I guess another great thing is you get an opportunity to show some other people the path. I know it's not what you probably set out and intended to do. You wanted it for yourself, and here you have an opportunity to help other people and blaze a trail. So, how does that make you feel that you're the first person to do that? That I'm aware of.
It's great, I think one of the first thoughts I had after I got my waiver was, you know what, I want to put this out so others know it's possible, So I made like a TikTok video and it absolutely blew up. And from there, I had a lot of people reach out to me. And through there, I found out, this Indigenous Nations Equality Team, they're in the DOD, they're like a native organization somewhat. They reached out to me and they're like, hey, somebody else just got theirs approved as well, and communicated with him how he went about his process. He's a totally different nation, totally different tribe. It turns out, there's a few others too that all got theirs approved around the same time as myself. So huge step, huge stride there. I'm sure they're doing everything they can too as people reach out to them. And like I said, I think it's a great thing, to try and spread that awareness. And it's awesome that people are reaching out to me. I feel great. I want to help out. It's an important thing.
Awesome. Well, if you guys ever put your heads together and you come up with like a blueprint of like, this is the way to do it. This is 100% the way to do it. You let me know, and I will definitely host it as a download or shareable or put it on the website and see if it helps anybody else to get the word out.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. So man, I appreciate you coming on here and sharing with us and about your journey and what it means to you. And it's quite an honor to talk to somebody who's out there blazing a trail and moving things forward.
I appreciate that. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. You take it easy.
You as well. Thank you.
Come on, ending show. There we go. All right. There you go. If remember on my website, battlebuddypodcast.net, if there's a resource that's not on there that you think should be, let me know and I'll work on getting it on there. And if you are struggling with anything, remember the National Suicide Hotline number is now 988-PRESS-1.